Yeah, so obviously your old man raced.
Yeah, my dad raced midgets. So I remember racing at Speedway City, or being at Speedway Park, sorry, not racing. So he raced from before I was born up until when I was 16. Then I was old enough to race the midget. Well, I raced Formula 500s for a year. Then I raced my dad's midget. Um, and then the midget class here was pretty much dead. Like we'd rock up and there would be three cars. I was one of them. So then we raced Formula 500s again. And then after when I turned 20 or 21 or so, we raced sprint cars and been doing that since.
If that makes sense. So there's obviously something he had to have seen some sort of racing pedigree in you to let you jump in a midget.
Well, I raced go-karts since I was a kid, so all I wanted to do was race cars. I didn't want to do any other sports or any like. Well, I used to play tennis and stuff at school, but if there was ever a go-kart race on or the tennis grand final, I'd go race a go-kart race. So that so I always wanted to race the midget. Um, and yeah, so as soon as I was old enough, I went and had a go in it.
And you loved it from the first time, or did it scare you?
No, it was pretty good. I remember thinking it was powerful when I was 16 because everything I'd raced before that was not powerful. Um,
What was the motor?
it was a Fontana. My dad was sponsored by Joe Fontana when they first started, so he'd get house motors from Fontana and then sell them secondhand in Australia and get another one. So yeah, I don't know which one it was. It was, whatever one he had at the time, I think. So they tried a few different motors, short stroke and long stroke, and because back then the midget rules were 158-inch motor instead of a 166. So the Fontana motors here were a little experimental.
Yeah, right. So how much sort of power were they making then?
270 horsepower.
Wow, so they've gone like 100 plus since
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. So you were pretty successful in the midget though, weren't you?
Uh, I don't know. Like I used to win the local races, but then we'd go race the Super Series and stuff and find out you're off the pace a bit. So Um, I won some races in my first season. I raced midgets probably 5 or 6 years after that for my uncle and won the state title and won a round of the Super Series, which was their premier series, travelling series at the time. Never really raced at Parramatta or Archerfield or anything like that. Just raced around here.
Was the transition to the sprint car like big? Was it
No,
you're ready for it?
no, it was exactly what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, well, on the tacky tracks, it was exactly what I thought it would be. Like the rolling out of the throttle down the straight and stuff. I'd never raced anything with that much power before, so you had to get used to that. But the first time I drove one, no, it just did exactly what I thought it would do.
Yeah, right.
I remember it being fumey. The None of the other cars were fumey. Like it let you know you're in a big car with a big engine, and that it was real. Where the other stuff was a bit littler.
So how the first test session go that you did?
I didn't do one. I just did a race.
You just went straight to racing one.
Yeah,
Really?
I only started at the back of the first heat, which I drew pole for, which I argued about. And then after that heat, I went all right. And then they said you can just start in the grid. So
Yeah,
I was a little annoyed that I didn't draw last and then first.
because you would have already had the AAA. Is it AAA or double A? You already had the top tier license coming from the midget.
No, it was 20 years ago. I don't think anyone cared.
So, man, straight into a racing one though. That's still pretty. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember I hot lapped and they waved me in for hot laps. And I remember there was another hot lap session out. And I thought, well, I'm not going in. I'm just going to do the next hot lap session as well. So I probably did 6 or 7 laps instead of 2 or 3 and then straight into a race.
Yeah. And you're obviously comfortable straight away in one.
Yeah, sort of wheel stood it and stuff like that. I remember the track was heavy. I remember ripping tear off after tear off, and I remember it bottoming out. I'd never raced a race car which bottomed out. Like you sent it in the corner and it winged in so hard the left side rails had hit the ground. So there was a few things that stuck in my head that was unexpected. But the motor, like the midget that I used to race when I was a kid, which would have only been about 3 seasons earlier. Those Fontanas were very sort of abrupt, bottom endy powerful. So the motor had a similar feeling to that, just twice as much.
So yeah, there's obviously something in you that's like a natural racer, though, isn't there?
Well, I used to win a lot when I was a kid. So it gets hard when you get older. You race against everyone. It used to win when they were a kid.
Yeah. Do you do anything for fitness?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I never used to when I was younger. I never knew how important it was, and how much you really had to be an athlete, and how much you'd fallen off before you realised you were puffed out. Um, now I'm older and um, I sort of go through phases, but now, like, I'm 42, so it's either train properly and do it properly or give it up. So, um, I've been through phases of being fit and being not, but if I could do it all again, I'd be, that'd be number one. The working on the car would come second.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of guys say they sometimes forget to breathe. Has that ever happened to you or?
No, I
Uh,
don't think so. So, I, no, I've been really puffed out before,
yeah.
when you're not fit enough and haven't raced a lot. Um, I've had that, like, but I wasn't forgetting to breathe. It was hard to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but no, I've never forgot that. You just never felt that.
What's the most like sort of strength thing that you need?
Um, Everything. So
Yeah.
you just need general fitness. So if you go to the gym and everything, like there's obviously running and riding your bike and doing all of that sort of stuff, but you want everything to be strong. You want your whole body to be strong, and there's like my arms don't get sore, my neck doesn't get sore, none of that. It's you get fatigued and then you slow down.
It's just that general, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. It seems to have come a long way in the last few years though, doesn't it? The the young guys are like all super fit now and all going to the gym and
It's pretty tough. Like when we're racing, there's four guys that really shine out. Who's Jock Goodyer, Jamie Veal, Lockie McHugh, and James McFadden, and they're tougher than anyone I've ever raced against in my whole life. Plus, Lindsay and lots of others I'm not mentioning are, ultra good as well. So it just seems harder than ever at the moment.
yeah. 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 It's such a weird thing. So you notice stuff on track, like, you know who you're racing against, like, you'll know, you know, he's a hard racer, he's aggressive, or like,
Yeah,
you'll pick all that, you know all that stuff before you even going out, don't
I know what motors they got.
you?
I know what chassis they've got. I know what they do. I watch their cars on the start. If they're warming their tires up, I watch how their cars act. Like, you don't want to go out there and just be dense. So,
Yeah,
the more you know, the better. I watch them all on the um, videos of what they do. So, the more knowledge, the better.
yeah. Is there anyone that you actually, who do you like racing the most?
I don't know. No one really at the moment is like a dirty racer or anything. So, all of them, like, they all race hard. Like, racing. The last race I did was Brock Hallett and Jock Goodyer. That was cool. They race hard. Well, they race fair, but they race brutally hard.
Yeah,
So, they'll sort of rub you up, but I don't think they're not nasty about it.
yeah,
Um, but anyone really, like, none of them really stick out as a favorite. Like, the local races, I like racing Matt because he's quick. So Matt Eagle. Um, and then on the national races, if I'm going good enough to start up the front, any of them.
yeah, yeah. We had a pretty good posse going here in SA like a few years ago, like you, Matt, Brad,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. There's like, we were pretty strong here for a while there. It seems to sort of dwindle a little bit though.
Well, it's sort of hard now. Like, we don't have a local track really. Like, well, we got Murray Bridge, but we don't have Speedway City and Murray Bridge. So, we used to race a lot, and the series or the tour would come to our local events. We'd have Speedway City and Murray Bridge, and you become sort of specialists at your own track, and half of that's gone. Well, two-thirds of it's gone, really, because Murray Bridge doesn't run 15 sprint car races a year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard for the South Australians to stay on top and, keep up.
Yeah. So is that where going to chariots comes in, that little bit of extra racing that you get to do, or?
Yeah, that's I like racing in the summertime. Racing over in Victoria in the rain in the winter doesn't interest me at all. Uh, Chariots is on in Darwin, and the weather's good, and the track's good, and it's a good time. So it's just a lot of effort to get there. Like every time I've gone to do it, something's come up, and we've never got there. So I've raced there a couple of times, but never with our team.
Yeah. So obviously you've raced for quite a few people as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So in my mind anyway, the Diamond Bay car sticks out pretty well. You've always gone pretty well in that.
Yeah, well, they're a great team, like Steve and Paul that own it, try very hard. Steve's, he just lives and breathes it. So I used to fly there and race, and the car was just ready to go. Nothing's forgotten. If it broke a motor, there's another one there fixed. You get there, the brakes work. It was just, the reason they go so well is because they're very good at it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's professional from the get-go kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Are you extremely hands-on with the cars that you race, or like going to something like that, you're comfortable just to get in it and go? You know that there's nothing.
Yeah, I like to have it right. I get sort of frustrated if it could be better and it's not. Um, with Diamond Bay and stuff, there was certain jobs I'd have, and we'd talk about how the car went, how we could improve and stuff like that. But with our own car, I'm very hands-on with it. Myself and my brother do it, but it's been 20 years now, and he's got other interests, so it's sort of, I end up doing it in the shed myself, and then I'll sort of see him at the track.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of hours that go in between meetings, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's something that doesn't get seen, is all those hours in the shed.
Yeah, you got to just make sure the thing's not breaking. Like the motors are so expensive. You pull the rocker boxes off and check all the valve gear, and do the oil filter and check all your fuel valves, and then the car, they always sort of twist, I guess, or move. So you got to remeasure everything, make sure everything's tight. With a racing car, if one piece falls off, it'll stop. If a piece falls off and it doesn't stop, then maybe it shouldn't even be on there in the first place. So,
It's extremely interesting way of looking at it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got to go over everything, like, parts failing on race cars isn't bad luck. They break for a reason. So
Yeah.
you got to try and minimize that. So that's what the hours in the shed is.
Yeah. Because they're so brutally fast, aren't they? Like,
Yeah, they're pretty wild. Like when you drive them, you understand why they tear themselves to pieces. Like they're just always twisted up. Like the other day or end of last season, we had a uni joint sort of spread and start shaking, so that we sort of couldn't find the problem throughout the night. And the amount of damage that does to your car the next day, like just the thing driving around shaking itself to bits. So you've got to be on top of it and make sure your gear doesn't get old, and just minimize the mistakes, I guess.
yeah, because that can be what wins or loses the race, can't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the plans, you're going to chariots this year?
Yeah, so we're going to go the week before for the Darwin title. I think that's a Friday and a Saturday race. Or it could be two separate races, I'm not sure. And then the week after, you got chariots, and then the week after that, you got the final round of chariots.
Yeah.
So we'll be up there for 6 races.
Yeah.
6 nights racing. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. So you you kept the red and black car for quite a few years. Have you changed up this year with the black and blue, or is it going out the same?
Well, the one for chariots will be the same because they've changed the rules with the some of the bar work in the roll cage, and
Yeah.
the car I'm using hasn't got that in there. So in September they change it. So I was building a brand new car, but I'll just take last year's. So it'll look the same.
It looks the same. Have you got something new coming though, or?
I don't know. My brother reckons I should have white with just stickers, so he doesn't like any of the wraps or anything. But
Yeah.
Seems a bit boring to me.
Yeah. Have you you've retained same sponsors and stuff like that, or?
Well, I hope so. I got Devil Karts as a new sponsor with us. So that's I've known Darren Bergen my whole life. So well, since I've raced go-karts when I was 7 or so. Scott from Action Line Marking, he's been a long time supporter of us. He's really into his racing, and another one I've raced go-karts with when I was a kid. And then Steve from National Karate, he loves it. He doesn't get out to the speedway as much as he used to before COVID. That with all these karate schools and everything, COVID was a bit difficult for him.
Yeah.
I actually went in his aeroplane the other day, so that was pretty cool. Yes, no. I was sitting on the runway. I was thinking, I was pretty nervous. That's sort of in this tiny
You were
little
like
thing.
the guy that races sprint cars is
Yeah.
nervous in the plane.
Well, I'm not in control of it, so.
So, and then obviously you're gonna hit all the big like blue ribbon stuff that's coming up, or?
I believe so. I think we'll sort of stay around South Australia, Victoria. Um, we had a really good time in Perth last season, but then this season, all that racing will happen around Warrnambool, with the Australian title and the Classic in Warrnambool. So the season sort of changes each year, depends what's going on.
Yeah.
But I believe we'll race. Hopefully the local South Australian series goes ahead, and we'll have some racing before Christmas, and then do the speed week, try and race in January when the weather's good and people are out, and then do the King's Challenge, the Classic, the Australian title. Hopefully there'll be like some midweek races about that time of year, and see what happens after that. Like by mid-March, the weather's sort of turning bad, and that's pretty much the end of it.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. You've always seemed to go on good at the King's Challenge.
Yeah, I sort of like Mount Gambier. We just like the track. It's hard race to win. There's so much competition. Stephen Lyons used to really step it up when we went to Mount Gambier. He raced every race, stepped up, but it sort of just go from good to extra good.
Yeah, you've probably done a lot of laps there. He'd be one of the only guys in the sprint car there that's come through juniors sedans to the sprint car. So he'd
Yeah.
have thousands of laps there compared to a lot of other guys.
Yeah, yeah, but that's a race we enjoy. Like someone asked if you think about forgetting that race for the Classic, and it's like never really do. Like the Classic's so hard to win. Really that weekend the King's Challenge is more of a realistic goal.
Yeah. You pulled the biggest wheel stand I've ever seen there one
Oh,
night.
good.
Yeah.
In my car.
Yeah, in your car. Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember if it was hot laps or a heat, but it was just the whole way down the back straight.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember like quarter throttling it all the way down the straight and it wouldn't come down.
Yeah. It just stuck in and just kept going. Yeah. Yeah. You don't see too much of it anymore.
Well, I think since they just got more and more powerful sprint cars over my career. Like my first car had, they were 372s back then, so we made like 100 horsepower jump one season. But my first engine had 670 horsepower, and now they got what, 920, 930, depends how you tune them. But what I'm getting at is everyone got better at throttling them.
Yeah.
Back when they had 600 and 700 horsepower, people would just hold them flat and they'd rear up and they'd go down the straight with it flat out. So now everyone's more, they're not flat out. So they've got more control of it and you don't see the wheel stands because I suppose the drivers are better.
Yeah. I think it's missing from sprint cars, to be honest.
It'll do it.
Yeah. It will definitely do it. Yeah. So you obviously learnt throttle control early on in your go-karts and stuff like that, though?
No, not really. I used to hold it flat a lot.
Yeah.
So it's funny when we build the motors, all I'd want is them easy to drive because I'm always itching to get my foot down.
Yeah,
So,
right.
That's yeah. Say to Peter Morris, I just want it the most powerful and the easiest to drive. Go. And he's like, yeah, righto. What do you think?
Yeah, I was talking to him last week, and yeah, he was saying he does build motors differently to like who the client is,
Yeah.
like and where they're going as well potentially. Obviously, you need every single horsepower for somewhere like Perth if you know that's where they're running. Like,
Not really. It's funny. Like every time I race in Perth, the motor it rides good at Murray Bridge runs good in Perth. So
Yeah, right.
it's, every time I've driven a custom built big track Perth motor, it goes slower than the normal one.
yeah,
So-
right.
But that's just with me driving. Like maybe with other people it might be different.
Yeah, You like racing over there with how fast and wide it is?
Yeah, it's good. It, it's hard going there now because Murray Bridge is the smallest, slowest track that we race against, and Perth and Bunbury are the fastest. Where Speedway City used to be quite fast.
Yeah,
So I find when I go there now, I got to get used to going fast. Um, like I've got a lot of experience over there, so you still know what to do and everything. But racing at 200 kilometers an hour instead of 130 is a little bit to get used to. But like at Speedway City, you'd probably do 170, so it wasn't a very big step back then.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I love it. It's good. It's sort of they're supposed to go 200 kilometers an hour.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. And the caliber of cars that are over there is just intense as well on like any given night there.
Yeah.
Like every time you see the feature lineup, you're like, wow, it's like,
Oh, they all go hard, eh? Like I don't know, it just feels like they're all trying to kill you when you're out there. It's yeah, everyone drives because it's such a big track. Like the guys, they just learn if you get on the cushion and hold it on, like you do fast lap times, and they all try really hard and have a crack.
yeah, they're racing for sheep stations.
Yeah, they want to win.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I sort of don't want to talk about Speedway City, but it's like you were pretty dominant there, like throughout like everything in the sprint car.
yeah, I used to enjoy bits about it. I never really liked rough tracks much. Speedway City went through phases of being rough and phases of being quite smooth track. But yeah, we raced there so much. It was sort of, we won all the big races there, and and that's where I grew up. Like when I got in the sprint cars, the goal was to win the Masters and the World Series races because they were the big races when I was 13 and 14 and watching. So that was, pretty cool to achieve that. And it's disappointing that it's gone. It's really bad for our sport in this state for sure.
Yeah, boxing night there was just something different, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, I remember when I got Hog's Breath as a sponsor, I just took him to boxing night and just said, "Yeah, this is what it's like, mate." So
yeah,
he didn't even go again. He just assumed 10,000 people went every time.
yeah. It's funny that was the case. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. Yeah, that it's. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, and I've heard too that it's a hard thing to get sponsors now too. That we've lost a track that's local. Like Adelaide businesses aren't interested in sponsoring someone who goes and races Murray Ridge.
Well, it's sort of hard. Like all of my sponsors are sort of friends or, associates at best. Like, Devil Karts, for instance, he's the only new sponsor I've had in the last few years. And I've known him my whole life through racing. And then like Southwest Conveyancing, they do a great job. They love the sport, but they're not doing it. It's not like just advertising their business at a local track. They do it because they love it.
Yeah,
So it's really tough. Like you go to Super Cheap Auto and you know what are you trying to sell them? It's
yeah,
we're probably like 10, 15 years ago the national series was what I think was at its best, and you had a lot better chance back then.
yeah. It seems like such a weird thing that like they think that we're like, I don't know, we're just yahoos like racing in the dirt, and it's like when you get to sprint cars, that's not the case at all.
Yeah, a lot of people take it very seriously. Like all the there's a lot of people like Luch Monty and the Cricky family and stuff put a lot into it with lots of different drivers, and then there's also a lot of family outfits that have just done it for their whole life, like the Andersons, like Grant Anderson and his dad. That 37 car's been racing since I remember sprint cars. So
Yeah,
different style of team, but the same sort of commitment.
yeah. It's yeah, maybe yeah, probably different levels of professionalism to some degree, and then it's like probably all the shed time and all that sort of stuff would be exactly the same and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's actually the longest serving sprint car in Australia.
Oh, really?
I think it's been
Yeah.
the longest registered car in Australia. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's actually, I think it's a pretty cool like sort
Yeah.
of stat to have. Like, yeah,
And it still looks the same. Well, sort of. Like you still know it's their car.
yeah, yeah. He's a definitely a hard, fast racer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you I don't want to say like aggressive, but you sort of do race like very like shoulders up, like
Yeah,
you're coming through. Like that's
yeah, yeah. Okay. I don't know. I just try my best. Like you,
just going for it.
yeah,
Yeah, not in like a dirty way or anything like that, but it's like you're definitely like you're up on it and you're
yeah.
going for it.
Well, that's the sort of cars I've chosen to drive. Like a sprint car rewards that sort of behavior. You know, they got huge motors, huge tires, and huge wing, and if you hold your foot down, it goes. So you got to drive them aggressively. You know, it's they're just wild cars. So why not?
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't know. They're just to me. I have no interest in anything bitchman like V8 supercars or Formula One, anything like that. It just doesn't do anything. I'll watch
Yeah,
the sprint car race anywhere, anytime, stream it, whatever, just because of how wild they are. But trying
yeah,
to convert someone or tell someone who's a bitchman fan about what a sprint car is,
yeah.
it
I know what you mean. Like I like the Formula One and everything. Like I appreciate, you know, how hard they would be able to drive, like something that goes that fast for 2 hours, you know, and it's so hard to pass in that, you know, you can't miss an opportunity. So that's, you know, sometimes they hit each other and you wonder why they did it. But, you know, the fact is that there's no other, you know, there's probably one chance in 2 hours to pass that car. And then, yeah, so, but, you know, we went to the Bend and watched the Lamborghinis race. You know, they're cool cars, but, you know, they just
it's not.
drive around and don't go near each other.
Yeah, it's not a sprint car pulling a
They
sled
sounded
or
good. So,
yeah, yeah. It's a I don't know. It's such a weird thing. I think it's just to me, it's like big motor, big tire, big wing, all that sort of stuff. It's just yeah, and then people just think we're just playing in the mud, and it's like, man,
yeah,
that you know, some of the teams are as professional as V8 supercar teams. It's like we're not,
yeah.
we're not of that caliber at all. So
Well, you know, it is what it is. It'll always be a dirt sport. So, what makes it good? What makes it good sort of holds it back in other ways. So,
yeah, yeah,
um,
that's a good way of looking at it. So is there anything that you haven't raced that you've ever wanted to?
I would like to race Formula One. Um, yeah, like I'd like to race what I do in America. You know, when I was younger, I never thought of it as an option really. Um, you look at it now and how good it is. It's something I should have done. Um,
It's not too late.
the not really. Like I don't know. Like late models look like fun. Midgets are fun. Um, no, I'm pretty happy racing sprint cars. Really, like it's sort of like I like to race sprint cars or the sort of not spin-off, but you know, a late model and a midget's like a sprint car. So
Yeah,
I'm not interested in racing a Formula V or anything.
yeah. So you step back into a midget now, or
Um, I don't want to race one on a half mile. So I'd like to race the Chili Bowl, but I don't know how to make that happen. And like I was saying off air, if I ever did that, I'd want to race midgets all all season. You know, so you didn't just suck completely when you got there. So
oh, sure, someone who's got your racecraft, you'd be fine.
yeah, yeah, it looks like a cool place.
Yeah, it's a big week though.
Yeah,
Like if you're racing on the Monday, you might not race again until a Saturday. It's a long time of waiting in between stuff. But yeah,
other girls would want to go to Disneyland or something.
you'd have time for it for
Wouldn't even
sure.
hear it.
Yeah. So you just never thought to go race America? Just never sort of popped up on the radar?
No, when I was younger, I never, you know, because we always raced, like my dad raced midgets and stuff. I never saw it as a potential career. And then, you know, by the time, you know, you worked out that could have been an option, you know, you had a business of your own and house and, you know, we'd married and got kids, so it sort of went that way. So uh, it became unrealistic at some point. But, yeah, like when I was in my 20s, I never really thought of it as something I could have done. It always seemed like you wouldn't make enough money to live, but, you know, maybe not. Maybe if you make enough money to drive cars, you don't need any more.
Yeah. So you like ever thought recently about like going over there and having a stint in something? Or
Not really. You know, my business, I've got to be here and run it, and um, I wouldn't be able to take my family and everything and, you know, just drop everything and do it. It would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't really want to go over there and become a crewman and try and start like a 20-year-old. So,
Yeah,
so probably not.
yeah. So it's not that much of a bucket item list sort of thing.
No, if it was, I'd go do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So the chili bowl will happen then.
I don't know. I've only sort of thought that lately. I'm probably too old now.
Nah, no way.
So
Nah, not at all. Nah. There's heaps of guys that do rental rides for him, so
yeah,
you'd be able to find something.
yeah,
The phone will ring off the hook maybe now.
yeah,
I
yeah, totally.
think the only thing is that it comes close to the classic week though, I think.
Yeah, I've done the classic a lot.
Oh,
Done it every
oh
year.
no. Yeah, I don't know. I'd actually be really interested to see my late model though.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like I've never driven one. I've driven a super sedan. That was fun. That was just at a country track, and um, yeah, I don't know. It was funny. It felt big and heavy and sounded good.
Yeah,
But the late model seemed up and drive. But it's sort of like I'd like to drive a late model, but I'd like to do it in America. Where that what you see on Flow TV and that sort of stuff. So
yeah. It's funny how they're like two separate worlds over there, aren't they? Like the late models and sprint cars. They're like just as big as they are each other, but they're like in different sort of like
yeah.
areas and different pockets of the country and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, like 10 years ago, I didn't even really know they existed, and
Yeah,
obviously they did.
yeah,
But
yeah. Some of the money in the States is like absolutely ridiculous.
yeah,
Like I watched one the other night. It was at Kokomo on a Monday night for 100 grand.
yeah, good.
And it was like Monday night. It's like, and the crowd was packed.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. But it was like late models was the only thing running.
yeah,
It's like said the late model show runs done, everyone's gone. And, everyone's home, ready to go to work the next day.
yeah.
Whereas that's just not really an option. I understand that's population that drives that there. Like you just wouldn't be able to do a show like that here in Australia. You'd have no one there.
Oh, they should try. See what
Yeah.
happens.
So if you get 100 grand for something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It'd be good.
Mm.
What is the most money in Australia is 50, isn't it? For the classic.
The Classic's 50. The Scott Darling Memorial was 50.
Yeah.
Um,
Was that 55?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might have been 55, yeah.
The Classic's only recently become 50.
Yeah.
So
Was it only 50 for last year as well? Because it was the 50th year?
I believe so.
So it'll maybe drop down next year?
I don't know.
Yeah. You were right.
I always think they run between like 5th and 12th, so
What is the best finish you've had at the classic?
4th, I think.
Oh,
So, yeah, that was a long time ago now. That was 15 years ago, I think.
yeah, right. So how long have you been in the sprint car?
Since I was 20, I'm now 42, so 42 years. 22 years. So 21 seasons probably, because I was almost 21 when we started.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so yeah. You must have learnt so much in that time as well, though. Like, if you could look back and see yourself racing back then.
Yeah, I guess. You've been around in circles with, the car setup and different brands and different motors and this and that. You look where we are now, and you're sort of like there's a certain place where a sprint car is, and you've been either side of it so many times. Like now we just sort of leave it pretty not stock, but we don't do anything radical with them anymore.
Yeah, you have like pretty base setup you
Yeah.
go out with and just drive to it.
Yeah, all the stuff that works now worked back then, but because I was a rookie driver, you didn't want to believe it. The answer was just get better at it. But
Yeah,
you
right.
always wanted to try and make the car win for you. So I suppose I've just learned that the car won't win for you. You just got to have it nice and do the job yourself, really.
Yeah. And your brother's your crew chief?
About half the time he is. He's in the downhill mountain biking at the moment. So there's the King's Challenges on, or there's a downhill mountain bike race on. He'll be at the push bikes.
Yeah, right.
So that's a bit tough. But no, I got Sam Putland helps me, and Hayden Jericho helps me. Hayden's really good. He's sort of just getting into it, and then obviously my dad's been with me the whole time, so he helps me out. But it is definitely easier when Lee's there. Like Lee's pretty cluey when it comes to sprint cars. So
Yeah.
it he's always pretty bad. Like you'd be racing and say, "What was the car like?" He'd say, "Well, on lap 13, you got puffed out." And I'd say, what was it like at the end? And he'd say, I don't know, there's no driver in it. So he was pretty brutal like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You get into a bit of mountain biking yourself, don't you?
Not as much as Lee. Like he'll practice for the races, and I'll go practice with him. But um, yeah, we did bits of it. Went Fox Creek the other day and didn't crash, so that was good.
Yeah.
Went with Candice's nephew, or Candice's sister's son, so my nephew. Um, and he didn't crash, and it was all good. So it was a good time.
Yeah.
Had to tow him up the hill, which sucked.
So you like the intensity of it?
Yeah, it's good. It's just a good time. Like I like, it's easy to do. Like where we live, like here where we are now, there's a mountain bike trail about 500 meters that way, and there's another one 200 meters that way.
Yeah.
So you got 2 hours, and you jump on your bike and you're straight into it. Where
Yeah.
if you do like go-karting or something like that, it's 10 hours for the same amount of enjoyment you can do in 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you like the intensity of like bombing down a hill? Like there's so much to pick up, isn't there? Like,
Yeah, I like it the best when I follow like Lee and the guys they race with because they go down the black tracks, which I probably wouldn't do.
yeah.
And you just, you know, make it through. Touch
Yeah.
the brake or die. So
Yeah. So that's, yeah.
no, don't touch the brake or die. Yeah.
Yeah. That's obviously like where your sort of like brain level was at with that intensity of stuff, like with the racing as well.
Yeah, I guess so. Like if I lived somewhere where there was 10-foot waves, we'd surf. Or if there was motocross tracks, we'd do that. But yeah, that like, I guess that's the reason I like it. Like because it is sort of a pretty hardcore sport, and the guy with the best bike's not the winner. The guy who tries the hardest is the winner. So that makes it fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So you like stuff that's on the edge and
Yeah, yeah,
anything that runs hard and fast.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. Like we went rode motorbikes around Tail and Bend. That was killer. Like that was first time I've ridden a proper 1000cc bike on a racetrack. And then we drove Mustangs and stuff around there, and that was pretty boring. So, give me the motorbike any day. At least it rips. So,
Yeah.
anything fast.
Are you getting like full length over like MotoGP style?
No, I took a picture of me. It doesn't look anything like I thought it would. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, that's
No, my knee sliders are very safe.
yeah, that's another like whole wild bunch of like dudes, isn't it? Anything to do with bikes, they're fully out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went down the straight, and you thought, shit, this goes. And then a friend of mine went with us, and then he rode around the outside of us, and then Lee, my brother, was with us, and there was another guy who was dressed the same that passed me, and I thought it was Lee, and he had his knee dragging on the ground, and I thought, oh, bullshit. So I'm going as hard as I can, trying to keep up with fake Lee, and then I worked out it wasn't even him. So someone knew what they were doing.
So how fast were you going, sort of thing?
285 was the fastest I saw.
Yeah, right.
Faster than the sprint car.
Yeah. Oh, there's heaps of guys that do that on the expressway every day anyway, so.
Yeah, one of them hit the back of one of my brother's truck the other day.
Yeah, right.
He was, it's another story.
Yeah. So that's obviously anything that's like excitable for you is where you're at.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like when you go away camping or something, I find it boring. Like I think, we should have a dirt bike or something to make it fun.
yeah,
So, like if we're going up the river, I want to use the boat. Otherwise, why are you there?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I think that translates to your racing.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, 'cause there's. Do you think you're a calculated racer?
Uh, I guess it's not really. Not really. The races don't go that long, so you
Yeah,
just sort of rip into it. And yeah, I don't know. I don't seem to crash into that much stuff, so that sort of helps a little. But no, I don't think it's not a 2 hour long race with pit stops or anything like that. So I think you can only be so calculating. Really, you just got to give a shit
either,
every lap.
either pin it or don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's such a I've always thought that you're a pretty calculated racer in terms of like looking from the outside. Anyway, like I've seen, you've made certain moves, and it seems like it's really calculated at that time. But
Well, racing for a while, like say if you pull a slider or something, you don't want to pull when it doesn't work
yeah,
because then you've just lost that lap. You've actually lost 2 laps because you've got to speed back up. And when you're driving around the outside of someone, if they bounce up in front of you and your left front's going to hit their right rear, it's over. So you got to, concede. There's nothing you can do. You keep going, you'll hit them and you'll crash and blame them, and you're still out.
yeah,
Same as if you pull a slider on someone and they ride your wheel, it is what it is. They as long as it's not over the top, it's everyone's got the same opportunities.
Do you have any moments in the car where you're like, "Whoa, shit!"
Where you breathe in.
Yeah,
Yeah, that happened.
yeah, still to this day, even though you've probably had numerous amounts of sliders thrown on you, or
Uh, Not really. Like the sliders you see coming, like you can see them from there. So I've never really had someone just land on top of me. I don't think.
yeah,
Um, the I guess I've been squeezed up against the wall with their right rear and my left front,
yeah,
but yeah, you have the moments where you breathe in just before you crash. So.
yeah. Or some of them they just happen so quick anyway that you don't even have time to.
But the hardest time I've had in a race car lately was Darwin, because we had COVID and then I broke my shoulder, so that put me out for a season. And then I hadn't raced much the year after that either. So I drove Scott Perrett's car. He was good luck enough to let me drive it when Chad had to go home for family reasons, unfortunately. And that just, I was just out of control. Like it was just happening so fast and not high enough. And, and it sort of felt like you were relearning to do it again because it had like 3 quiet seasons in a row and then get in a strange car and proper race and get back into it. So that was tough. Like it took me a night and a half to get going. I remember in the B main saying to myself, run the wall and do it properly. And, pulled a short slider, didn't make it through, missed the top, end up going back from a transfer position back to 8th, I think, and just kept running the wall. And then it all sort of clicked again and caught back up and got in the final. And I think we come 6th or 7th on the back. So that was pretty tough, but it was pretty cool. But no, it was just a blur.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Speaking of blurs, how do you go with the eyes? I watched the Viet Supercar guy drove Dyson's car, and he was talking about how shaky it was. He never realised how. Did it take you a while to get the eyes back in again, or?
um, no, not really. I would like to have 25-year-old eyes in my head. That would be good. I find the cushion hard to see now,
Yeah,
but I know what he means. Like the things they shake, especially when something's wrong. They just shake out of control. It's funny. I was watching the Indy 500, and one of them said they'd flat spotted a tire and it was shaking, and they showed the in-car camera, and you can only imagine what it's like in there. So it's not the only sport where it does it, but yeah, I remember at Speedway City once we same thing as what happened to my car. The uni joint had failed in the dash in the Diamond Bay car, and I said you got to change the uni, and I remember Steve said we don't have time, so sent me out. And I remember it was just blurry the whole way, and it wrecked it. Like we come in, the thing was wrecked. Like the torque tube was ruined, and the bell housing was ruined, and all the brake pads had fallen off, and the bearings in the motor were ruined. Like it wasn't a very good deal. But yeah, that was blurry the whole way.
I remember one of the greatest things I've ever seen in Speedway was you set. I think you won the gold shootout or whatever they are in World Series, that borderline in the
Yeah.
Diamond Bay car.
Bloody motor blew up.
And the motor blew up crossing the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whole thing of what happened after that.
Yeah.
Do you remember spinning it in front of the pit gate?
No, I remember the motor braking.
On like as you went across the line, you just heard it.
Yeah, and then from that moment onwards, I was just planning what we had to do to get out. So I knew what the other motor,
Yeah.
I knew which motor was the one we were going to use. I knew what we had to do to get it in and
Yeah.
everything. And
So no interview. From what I remember, you
yeah,
you spun it in front of the pit gate,
yeah,
and you stood up in the seat and just went like that, and the boys knew, and they went straight back to the truck. You
yeah,
pulled the wing posts, pushed the wing back.
yeah.
Do you remember Trevor Green being there?
I remember there's a photo of heaps of guys helping.
Yeah. I remember me and my mate were standing there watching. I think Trevor had blown a motor, so he'd packed up for the night, and
Yeah,
he's just screaming at blokes, do this, do that, do that. It was one of the greatest things ever. I reckon you had to have been back out there.
20 minutes it was, which for us, well, I guess we've done it a few times, but that was pretty good effort.
Yeah.
That was my favourite motor too.
Was it?
That was broken.
Peter Morris said that you did the greatest motor explosion he's ever seen.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that was at Quinana. I was in my own car and it broke a crank. I was leading. Never happens when you're not leading. And I remember thinking it was a uni joint, and I thought, well, this is going to break my ankles. There's only 8 laps to go. See if it holds on. So, and then it went a few more laps, and then it just locked up solid. And I remember getting out, and I just saw the motor. It was just wrecked.
There's nothing salvageable.
No, no, they tell me I hold the record for the most blown up motor.
Yeah, right.
I remember it blowing up, and I remember just holding it flat, and it went about another 5 meters, and then stopped.
Yeah.
So should have stopped.
It probably would have been done anyway, wouldn't it?
I don't know. Yeah, it broke the crank, so it would have the crank was broken. The block would have got pretty damaged. It's probably yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Where did that motor end up? Just in the bin.
The top end, we took the top end off. So we built a whole new bottom end, and then I ran it. I won the speed week with it a few
Yeah,
months
right.
later.
Yeah, right.
And then Ken Hutchins bought it.
Should have kept that smash block or
No, I
something.
didn't want to see it.
You must say.
I never even saw it since I saw it when I was washing it. I was spraying inside the motor of the gurney.
Yeah, there's too many dollars there to probably
It was wrecked.
to have a reminder of it.
And when you wreck the bottom end, you build the bottom end up and you don't even get the performance parts. The real rip-off.
Yeah,
Better off the wreck your heads.
yeah. You've been pretty loyal to Maxwell Motors.
Yeah, Dave Baines used to build our motors. We met him in the midgets and stuff. And then, just raced and I watched the Maxwell motors. They're always very fast. Like, I remember Lindsay ran them with Dave Challenge and obviously Cricky Motorsport and Max Dunsney. And one of the motors we wanted to sort of go in a different direction and just spoke to Peter Morris and Scott Hoskin and they just rebuilt one of them and sort of liked it and stayed there since.
Yeah, right. So how many years you been there with them? Yeah,
15.
15. Yeah, right. Yeah,
So, and I've used, the motor it blew up in Perth was actually a Dave Baines motor, and then when I switched to Maxwell's, Dylan Jenkin had switched from Maxwell's to Dave Baines. So he had a top end of a motor that they decided he didn't want to use, and I had the Baines top end, and we met up and just swapped over. So then we were both happy. So I guess it's just different people, different stuff.
yeah, yeah. So speaking of Bordertown, are you keen for it or what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it looks killer.
yeah,
So I've been at I-55. I've never raced there, obviously, but yeah, it looks hardcore. It's pretty looking forward to it. I'm glad that Wayne and all these men are very interested in it. We're all pretty lucky. We'll reap the benefits of what the work they do.
yeah, yeah. I'm pumped. I can't wait.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think for any class going there, I'll be pretty keen.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it should be interesting. Especially I think guys like yourself there will really shine. That's flat out and wide and
I hope
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
It it'll race far. Like you've seen how banked it is. Like it's not flat like Warrnambool.
Yeah.
It's banked.
Yeah. I think even months ago when I drove back from Melbourne, I stopped there to have a look and it's like I don't know how much is actually done to the track per se now, but whatever's the dirt that's been cut out now, that's got heaps of banking in it already. So I don't know what will happen by the time it gets topped with clay and stuff. Yeah, it should be good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've seen I-55 race and it's hardcore. Like it's good. So
Yeah. Have you got a favourite track?
well, Murray Bridge is my favourite track because I've raced there the most, and it's got good shape and sort of go well there. Um, I enjoy racing at Kwinana, but it's not easy to race at because it's so few and far between. Darwin was good fun. Warrnambool's good. Well, was good, but no, had the old dirt on it. So I hope it's getting better.
Yeah.
And Mount Gambier, I like Mount Gambier, but Mount Gambier and Murray Bridge feel very similar to me. So it's sort of funny like this. As long as it's banked and smooth, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you enjoy when like the Americans come over and stuff like that? You like sort of stepping up to that next level?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's that's what makes our sport good. It's that's if it wasn't any good, they wouldn't want to come. So I like racing against them. They race so hard, and it's good when you beat them, and it's yeah, I do enjoy it. Yeah.
Have you ever been starstruck in the car racing against anyone?
No, not
No.
really. Well, I started next to Kyle Larson once at Mount Gambier, and we were sort of warming our tyres up, and I was watching his car just wouldn't squat, just wouldn't take off. So I just brought it in real slow because, even someone as good as him, if it's not going to go, it's not going to go. So,
Mm.
so not really. Like you'd,
You're all there for the same job, sort of thing, aren't you?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Man, I'd be peaking if I was next to Carl Larson. Yeah. I mean, just if I was in a sprint car, it'd be enough. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's such a weird thing. Yeah. All right, Luke.
Okay,
Thanks very much, man.
thanks.